These are real photos, so that's a real photo of lightning in Liverpool. Okay, Flash, lightning. And this is a picture of Flash, the superhero, but I couldn't get a picture of him without a picture of her in the way. I apologise about that. Yeah, okay, I'm found out. So, do we have our first Flash talker? Yeah, Tom, yeah.
You can just hold it.
Right. Can you hear me, yeah? So mine's not really about testing, to be honest. It's more of an agile thing. So if everyone's had sprint planning before, I'm sort of going to talk about planning poker and why I like it. So planning poker is essentially a method of estimating on upcoming stories and functionality. I think it's a really good way of working. It's basically you sit down as a team. Everyone in the scrum sits together and you basically vote, you assign a number to a story. It's a really good way of provoking discussion. I'll show you how it works. I would have prepared it earlier. I didn't know I'd be picked so soon. But basically you've got numbers on a scale of the Fibonacci sequence, which is essentially takes every previous number and adds them up. So I'll see if I can show you. So what you do, I'm not sure if you can see that, but in the Scrum or in the sprint planning session, you would essentially look at a piece of functionality, and every member of the team would essentially go through these cards and vote on it, depending on the time you think it would take. And I think it's a really good method because a developer, for example, might have more experience in one area than another, so they may have a higher voting card, and that would provoke a discussion, say, why do you think this is hard, or why do you think it'll take more time? Same with testing, you may sort of think something's a 3, another tester may have voted an 8, so it sort of provokes a discussion, makes you think, well, why has this person voted an 8? This person's got more experience in this area, you know, maybe I should listen to them, and it's, you know, it's just something I'd encourage. There may not be any Scrum Masters in the room, but certainly testers should be able to encourage the Scrum Masters. Maybe there's some watching the stream. It's definitely something I'd recommend. Give it a go. That's it.
I think Tom raises a really good point. I've done the poker a couple of times, and I know you spoke about a tester challenging a tester, but more than anything, it's sometimes it can be the developer comes out with a high number, and as a tester you think it's dead simple, and then that invokes the discussion between the tester and developer, and you realise as a tester it's far more complicated than you thought. Who in the room, as a show of hands, uses the poker cards? That's quite good. There's about 10 hands gone up. That's pretty decent. Well done. Okay, so well done, Tom, for that. Next lightning talk is Gaz Tynan from PlayStation.
All right, thanks very much, Lee. Yeah, mine isn't necessarily a lightning talk. It's more of a question for the guys. And I'm going to the pub afterwards, so if you've got any thoughts on this at all, hit me up in the pub. And I guess me and Jonathan should have a chat because this is quite relevant to what these guys are doing. But I want to ask the question, what do you guys value in a tester? What qualities make a good tester? What are your hiring strategies for tester? How would you get from the interview stage to a good long-standing tester that your organisation, your clients value, that you can share with us? I've got thoughts of my own, but I don't want to influence the guys. I want you guys to come and have a chat with me over a few pints or whatever, and go from there. It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts, and I really think we could share these about. There's one thing that I will share that I've heard before in a talk of Eurostar, is that a guy did his hiring techniques based on a box of tissues. So he placed a box of tissues in front of prospective testers and asked them to test this box of tissues, and these guys would start pulling out tissues. They'd rip the box and go, oh yeah, so tissue comes out, it seems to work, and then he'd give this to his testers, and the guys would set it on fire, they throw it against the wall, stand on it, you know, put it in water, is it waterproof, you know, all these kind of tests. So I think it'd be really interesting. I'd love to have a conversation with you downstairs in the pub about what makes a good tester and how do you hire for a good tester.
That's a real deep question. Okay, so here's another scenario. a lot of companies go from waterfall to agile, and this is part of my recording with Gemma tomorrow. But basically, in a team, a tester has strength, don't they? In a team, a tester can fall back on other testers. So when you recruit and you've got a standalone test team, I believe your strategy is different to agile, because when you have a test team, you're looking at the strength of the team, and when someone leaves, what strength needs to be plugged. You take that tester and put them in an agile team, in a squad, all of a sudden they're by themselves. All of a sudden the perceptions have all changed. All of a sudden the developers think they've got a tester in the squad, that tester knows everything. Well, guess what? We don't, because testing is so big and vast. How on earth can you know everything? So I'd be interested to join you in that one, Gaz, because I think it's a real deep one.
And so I forgot to mention that even if you're not here, you're online or whatever, stick on the Facebook page.
Yeah, good shout, yeah, good shout. So any other lightning talks? Anybody want to come up and ask a question? Come on, then we've got our third lightning talk. So, contestant number 3, what's your name? Where'd you come from?
Tom from Clever Advisor.
Cool, Tom, away you go.
So I've got more of a question. Usually most of the testing is done in Test Manager. That's where the test steps are, parameters, and then it's all exported into C# and Internet Explorer goodness. But if we're testing across more browser configurations, is there any way to implement WebDriver with the Test Manager test steps generated into C#?
Okay, so are you going to the pub after?
Yeah.
Okay, if anybody has, does anybody want to challenge that a bit more or want more information on that one?
Sure.
Are you heard of something called browser stack? Because that's what we use to have, rather than have physical downloads of, of the browsers. It's you open it like in the actual browser stack, and it has actual instances of Internet Explorer, Chrome, like all the way back to IE6 on Windows XP. And it's not emulated. You've got mobile devices.
All right.
And the good thing about browser stack is it's also got Selenium integrated into it.
Yeah.
So you can run whatever.
Can I find that in NuGet packages, can I, on Visual Studio, or do I have to download that externally?
I'm not sure.
So, you going to the pub as well?
No.
Okay. Well, we've got a clear mop-up exercise afterwards.
I'm checking out.
I guess I use browser stacks as well.
Okay. And Mark's going to the pub as well, and you've got a question as well, Mark, so if you want to take it to the booth, is that all right? Okay.
You're all legends.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank
well
you.
Done. Yeah. It's getting late. Are there any more lightning talks? Okay, so we're into... Oh, there's a latecomer. The usual suspect, it's Ian. If anybody doesn't know, Ian's done a lightning talk at every gathering.
Apart from the first one.
Apart from the first one. So, welcome to Ian.
Hello. Again, this isn't so much a question like the previous ones, but this is just sort of a test planning or test technique that you can use. It's something that we've used with sort of good effect in PlayStation recently, but it can be applied to any sort of test planning. Doesn't matter if it's software, websites. But looking at not specifically exploratory testing, but think of how many of you are familiar with nightmare scenario testing? Anyone? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So a fair number, but not everyone. So nightmare scenario testing is, I think anyway, fantastic, because you can look at similar projects, because there's no such thing as an original idea. We have to come to terms with that. There's always going to be a similar project to the one that you're working on at the moment, so you can look at real life, real world examples of a similar project. Say you're working on an application, like we've had an example previously, a gambling application. You can pay real money and pay for that on your website, what have you. What's the nightmare scenario for that? Think of the nightmare headlines. It's in the newspaper. It's on all the websites. For example, if it's gambling, people's bank account details have been leaked, or the security's lackluster, or it's just not fun. That kind of thing. If you reverse engineer those headlines, that can inform your test plan, your test procedure. You can think, what can I do? What can I do to prevent that from happening? So obviously, for security, it'd be hire white hat hackers or, you know, look at security testing. But it could be anything. From a PlayStation point of view, it could be, what can I do to prevent poor review scores? Look at similar games that have been released. Or from, you know, Android developers, it could be, what can I do to prevent low download numbers or low review scores? So it's just a for instance that you can use to inform your test plan, your test strategy. Cheers, guys.
I think that's really interesting because I know our CEO and CIO, shop direct, what keeps them awake at night, which I suppose could be your nightmare scenarios, is security. And we have Claire in the room. But it seems to be the thing now that's keeping people awake at night. And I'm glad you've mentioned security because we know, back in 2010, PlayStation got hacked and the PSN.
Never happened.
Yeah, it never happened. Okay. I was there, it happened. And PSN went down for, 5-6 weeks?
I think it was more like 2 minutes.
No, it was 5-6 weeks. And that's a nightmare scenario. And I think from shop direct to retailer, you're absolutely right. It's very similar to TalkTalk. It's what keeps the CIO awake at night. The nightmare scenario, it's everyone's details being stolen and being hacked, because then people lose confidence. So you're absolutely right, Ian, well done. On that bombshell, I'm just going to go very quickly to, oh no, that's the wrong way. I'm going to go to the thank yous. Thank you to everybody. Thanks to our talkers. Thanks to the team, Duncan and the guys, Amy at the back, Phil at the back. Thanks to our sponsors, Navoda. Again, thank you. Yeah. Thanks to our two speakers, Mark and John. Thank you to the flashers. Yeah. Thank you again. Have you done a podcast yet? I'm going to scratch that out then.
Actually, at the pub, if anyone wants to get into a group discussion, if they don't want to do a podcast by themselves, isn't it the idea of counting the break?
Yeah.
Maybe even the chat about what makes a good tester.
Or even in the pub.
That's what I meant. If I go with
Yeah.
stuff, get in that discussion, I'm happy to do in groups.
Oh, let's do that, man. Let's do a podcast. Your discussion as a podcast would be brilliant.
Yeah.
Who else have I missed off? Anybody? No, I think that's thank you to everybody. So now it leaves me with that picture, which is, it means one thing. Oh, feedback box. Wave it about aggressively scared. Yeah, lovely. That's not aggressive, that's like, okay. Okay. So a big thank you to you guys more than anything for coming. If anybody wants to stay behind and help us just clear up, that'd be appreciated. But if not, we'll see you down the pub.